Hey y'all, this is She Buys It with Whitney Nicely.
Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to the She Buys It podcast. I am so excited for today's interview. I'm going to introduce you to my mentor, my mindset mentor, and she and I have been together for 3 years, working through a lot of different growth strategies and growth pains. This is Delora. I'm going to say it wrong. How do you say it?
Guignion.
Guignion. I have to get my French accent back from my 5 years of class in high school that I have completely rednecked and forgotten by now. So this is Delora, and she is an expert at mindset, but how it relates to sex, power, guilt, and shame so that you can make more money and get laid more often. I mean, this woman is brilliant. So y'all are going to love this. We are going to dig into the real estate, and I'm sure we will get around to how the real estate deals interact with sex. And let's be honest, ladies, we all love sex. We all love money, and we all love real estate. So this is going to be an awesome interview. I'm so excited to do this and share this expertise with y'all. So, Delora, do you have anything else that I need to say to the ladies? Oh, I also want to say that Delora's in Canada, so she's got a different market, different laws, different taxes, but that she still lives in a house and they're still doing real estate deals in Canada. So this is definitely something that is worldwide. We're all living in houses. We're all dealing in real estate. I focus in the States, but you can do these deals anywhere.
That's so true. Very true.
Anything else I missed? Oh, Delora is a mom to 4 young people, and they're not kids anymore. They're definitely young people. And Delora, we're going to get into, has been through some things that I think 50% of women will go through, and that being some deals that didn't happen and some deals that could have happened differently, some divorce situations, and just some different things than I have been through. But she is an open book and happy to teach us what she's learned so that the rest of us don't have to go through it.
Absolutely.
So let's dig into that a little bit. One of my favorite stories that you've shared with me over the years was maybe when you were a young married lady and you had some ideas and some goals and some things that could have happened, and you'd be in a totally different ballgame, tax bracket, all those things now. So share with us a little bit about what happened in the beginning of the marriage and how that worked out.
Absolutely. So I'm always the girl that's going to jump off the cliff and then figure out how to land safely after I'm in the air.
This is why we're BFF.
Yeah, exactly.
Me
We'll
too.
Figure it out. Yeah, exactly.
It'll be fine. God will take care of it.
It's all right. It's all right. So back then I was, I think I was 20 years old and full of everything. Like, what do you mean? I can just do it. I can just marry a military guy. I can just have a zillion babies while he travels all over. No problem. But I always, before we even had kids, we moved into military housing. And then we started to talk about, we had our first baby. He had been overseas, whatever. And we had talked about buying a house. And I said, I would really like to buy a house. Even before we were going to buy for ourselves, I said, why don't we buy a house with an apartment and we can rent it out? And I said, we could live here maybe another 6 months, maybe another year. Yep.
Hold on, time out. When was that? What was the year on that?
Oh gosh. Victoria was born in 1999.
So it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
So before the internet, for sure.
Yeah.
Before people are, well, I mean, I guess there was people out there, gurus pitching programs and teaching how to do stuff back in the 90s. But before it was like in your face every day, you need to buy houses, you need to do this, you need to do that, and set up generational wealth. Like way before I was preaching that every day, for sure.
Oh yeah. I hadn't even heard of it. I wonder if I didn't know someone that had done that, or if I don't even know how the idea came to me. Like, it was just, to me, why not? Why wouldn't we do it? We're living in someone else's, I mean, it was military housing, but we're living in someone else's home. Why couldn't we do it?
So today, that idea that you had today, we call that house hacking, where you buy a house and you rent it out and somebody else is basically making your mortgage payment for you. And you can do that on houses with an apartment, like you said. You can do that on a duplex, a triplex, a quadplex. You can buy a 10 unit apartment complex and live in one rent free for forever and manage it while you're there. I mean, that is awesome real estate experience. So today we call that house hacking, but in 1998, 1999, I don't know what they called that.
Yeah.
You're definitely ahead of your curve though.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they would have called it either. And to me, it was just, another way to make money, because at the time when I was having her, I was working in a call center. No, I wasn't working in the call center yet. So I think I was doing a bunch of jobs. Like I worked at a bar, made really great money with my assets overnight, like serving people their booze and whatever. And then I also, for a time, I worked in a restaurant in the day, bar at night. Then I worked in a hotel, changing housekeeping in the day and bar at night. And then I just burned out because I just couldn't keep up with that kind of lifestyle. And it just so happened that I applied for a call center job. And it all kind of happened at the same time, but I was like, there's no way that I should be poor. Like I didn't really have a concept of wealth, though, I'll be honest with you. I lived in my mom and stepdad were considered rich because my stepdad was a doctor. My mom was a teacher. That was rich to us, right? But it really wasn't. They had 5 kids. Obviously, you're not rich with that kind of income. And my dad was a fisherman, so he was his own entrepreneur, and it depended on the season, whether or not you were going to have a good season or not. So I didn't really have a concept of wealth, but I just knew that I liked to spend money, and I wanted to spend money when I wanted to. What do you mean I can't buy this? I don't have enough money. This doesn't make sense. And so I thought, well, that's another way of doing it. I'm going to live somewhere anyway. Why not live somewhere where I can rent it out, or buy it and then rent it out for a year and then move in, whatever. And as great as he was at just letting me run with my ideas, he wasn't cool with that. My ex was not cool with that at all, because it just was not something that his family had done. It was just not something that anybody knew anything about. And there was taxes to worry about, although he did go to accounting, but there was just things that we were trying to consider in all of this that we didn't have the experience to go through with. And at the same time, one of his friends through work started talking to him about building a house. And so they wanted to build. And my friend, I did end up building 3 doors down from where my friend lived. But looking back on it now, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have built at that time. It was not, I made a lot of money when I sold it, but I didn't have anything that could keep making money. Once you sold it and you invested in your next house, which I did, obviously, usually people buy bigger houses I bought a bigger house. I sold and made money on that house. And then we moved to where the city that I'm in now. So it would have been something that I would have kept even if I moved out of that town.
So my mom has always told me that you can only sell it once, which is exactly what you just said. You can sell it once and then you buy bigger, but then nothing else is coming in to make you any money. And exactly. The goal is, if you're going to spend money every month, you need money coming in every month. You need somebody else making this mortgage payment for you. And, we're talking 98, 99. That was 20 years ago now. So you could have an asset pretty well paid off, bringing you a couple $100,000 every month now to offset you. Yeah. And what you got going on and what you're doing. So I think a lot of women, especially when you're in your 20s, we've all kind of fallen into that. Okay, get married, buy a house, have babies, move up that ladder, but you already had that idea that there's another way out here.
Yeah.
You just didn't have the full support of your person. Yeah. Now, you said that your parents were a teacher, a doctor, and an entrepreneur. What did your ex's parents, what were they like? Were they risk takers?
One was a banker.
A banker, very risk adverse.
Very risk adverse. And his mom worked in a nursing home.
Okay, so my husband's parents were both teachers. Very risk adverse. They're used to getting this much money, living on this much money, but now both of them had parents who were real estate investors, grandparents who were real estate investors. So they were this beautiful hybrid situation of where they're used to getting a certain amount of money, but they're also used to getting a little bit of mailbox money and splitting that with their siblings and their cousins and everybody else. And so whereas Jason grew up very risk adverse. And his parents weren't real estate investors. Their parents were, his grandparents were on both sides, but it just skipped his parents and him. And I think that has a lot to do with it, especially when you're young and you're newly married and you're just trying to figure out how to eat and how to figure out how to pay the car and do all those things, that sometimes real estate investing is just not a priority.
Right. Well, I also think that, you know, especially back when I was growing up, I mean, as fantastic as my parents were, or tried to be and give me a sense of savings, the big thing that they were passing down as messages, now I know this now because I coach on it, but was safety, security, savings. But if you're going to buy a house that you're not going to live in, that's not safe to them, so to speak, right? But it's not about that. In fact, I would have been a lot safer, because if I bought that first starter home with an apartment, even if I didn't live there, and say I did decide to sell it because the market was really good for sales back then, say I did decide to sell it, but then I bought like a sixplex, like an apartment building, like it would have, I know that I would have kept going with it. It wouldn't have been just a one-off thing. The other thing is that my ex wasn't very handy. So he was worried about, you know, who's going to fix things. And I hated painting. I always ended up starting something and making him finish. So he hated that idea. But there's people, like, you know, like in hindsight, there's people that do that. There's people that do it as a paid hobby. So they're not going to charge you the arms and legs. You still go through inspections. Like, you can take care and you know, safety it for yourself. This is not as risky as what most people who don't have this passed down to us are led to believe.
So I had it passed down to me. My mom was a real estate investor before she married my dad. My dad used to buy and flip cars. He'd buy and flip motorhomes. And then they started buying, flipping, but renting houses. I can remember being in elementary school, being in middle school, being in high school, and going to auctions and just buying a house on a Saturday, because that's how my parents did things. So I've always been a risk taker. I never thought it was weird to go buy a house and then never live in it, never even go see it again. I always grew up with money coming in the mailbox every month. I didn't realize bills came in the mailbox until I was in my 20s, and I didn't have any mailbox money. I had bills in the mailbox. I was like, wait a minute, Mom, I thought money came in the mailbox, not bills. And she was like, well, you got to go buy something, silly. And I was like, wait a second, I think we missed a step. Like, thank you for training me that money comes in the mailbox, but you didn't train me on how to get my own money to come in the mailbox. You just showed me that you had money coming in the mailbox.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's so funny, you mentioned my kids. So I have twins right now that are 18. My oldest is 19. She's out on her own, but my twins are here. And the thing that I'm impressing upon them is, while you're not paying rent, because they're living with me, I would like them to save a certain amount so that they can start the ball rolling there. I want them to be able to consider, and they're scared of it because it wasn't something that I did, so they don't have examples of it, but I want them to buy a real estate property that's going to the same thing as what I was going to do. And I'm trying to fill them up with all the information I can. Now they're a little resistant at 18. But I've shown them how they can do it and still have money to spend and whatever. And now is the time to do it because they live with me. It's fine, you know?
And so my brother and I, when we started, we just partnered up together. We were living at Mom's house and we bought 2 rental houses. And from there, we've kind of divided and conquered, where now he runs my mom's trucking company and he runs that kind of stuff, which I still get money from every single month. That's where my health insurance is. It's with my mom's dump truck company. And I go and do a couple different things every month so that I'm contributing, but I focus on our houses. So he is doing the stuff that feeds us right now. I've built our portfolio up to where we have 16 houses that's going to feed us later, right? And I've got our portfolio in a situation where I'm trying to leverage it to jump us up into apartments to where we have 50 doors so that we can see our later sooner, right? So I love, some people will say don't partner with your family, but you're teaching your girls, and Anthony, you're teaching your son too, that it's okay to take some risk, and it's okay to take some advancements, and it's okay while you're rent-free, debt-free, and just kicking it, to take some responsibility that maybe everybody else isn't. And I think that's huge, because we come from different parenting styles, but people talk about breaking generational curses. You're in a perfect position to break this. I don't want to say you're cursed or anything, but
Yeah.
to break this expectation and push a different expectation to your kids to where they realize they can be entrepreneurs or they can be real estate investors and they don't have to wait until they're 50 to get started.
Absolutely. In fact, I would say to anybody that's listening, if you like start yesterday, like there is no good time to start, and there's no, especially, I mean, you know, you said, was there internet? I don't know if internet could have been out then, but like if I had a Whitney back then, really, somebody that could show me how to do it, who had taken the risk before me, who would have just said, no, take the plunge. Because I was ready to jump off the cliff, but I was having someone say, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Even though that was my intuition to do it. Like I knew in my gut that was the right step. And I still talk about it because it was something that, you know, I didn't do. I don't have regrets. There was a reason why I didn't do it, and I had to learn the way I did. But, you know, now you lay it out for people to do it. And the other thing is that if you're going to do it, you want to have someone guiding you that has already taken the risk. Why not? That's where it's going to help you make more money. It's going to cut down your risk, and you're going to be surrounded, well, especially in your case, with the group of people that are doing it all around you. So it's not going to be foreign when you have people around you that are going to say, don't do it, you're crazy, that's wild, don't do it, scary. There's a community built already for that. So I just think it's like a no-brainer these days.
The best thing that I had when I got started was my mom's voice in my head saying, do it, you'll figure it out. Do it, go for it. You can do this. Go girl, you got it. Because I had my boyfriend, my husband now, with that other voice saying, don't do it. It's too risky. It's scary. You don't know what's going to happen. But thank the Lord, I had my mom's voice a lot stronger in my head. And I recognize that a lot of women don't have their mom's voice saying, yeah, girl, you got it. Go for it. Do it to it, baby. And so I feel like I am so blessed to be that voice in a lot of women's heads now that says, oh, you can do it. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can do this. You can do this. And a lot of times, they tell me, especially Sherry is one of the first ladies that started in First Little and Fast way before it was First Little and Fast. And she said that she could just hear me. She could hear my voice saying, do it, you'll be fine. Do it, you'll be fine. Just take it. Take that plunge. Take that leap. You'll be fine. We'll figure it out later.
Exactly.
And that is so important. And you're right. Now we've got 200 women strong saying, do it, girl, you'll be fine.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where you can go in and check those doubts, and you can leave them at the door. Because without it, anytime you want to make a change or something that's drastically different, I mean, that's the mindset thing. You're not going to be able to do it if your patterns are ruling the day. And it doesn't even take very long.
It's a change though. And it's a lifestyle change because just like your twins, they're looking at, okay, I'm 18, I've got a little job, I'm in school, I'm doing this little thing, and I could either go do this or I could stay home and save this so that next year I could buy that. And it's really hard to make that lifestyle change when everybody else around you is doing all the fun, great, wonderful stuff, but you're trying to set goals and you're trying to change your lifestyle. And it's super important that you have other people around you who are also on that path so you can say, okay, I'm not alone.
Right. Exactly. And the other thing is that, you know, as great as their relationship is, their dad's not going to say the same thing as I am. Right. So they're still going to have the two voices. So that's why I'm trying to, you know, read this, listen to this, hear about this, think about this, like just go for it. And you can still find ways to, you know, buy all the clothes you want or the ones into makeup, buy the makeup you want, plan for a trip that you want. But you can also, while you're on that trip and not getting paid in your job, you can get a paycheck because rent came in, you know? So it's so important because that's not necessarily, it isn't 100% the messages I heard when I was growing up at all. It was buy a house, that's going to be your, you know, build the equity in the house. That's your safety. It's not.
It's not like that anymore. And
no, it's not.
I think you've done an awesome job, more than you realize, because I remember years ago, you would have somebody in the front seat taking notes or sending messages or doing things for you as it was coming to you. And you've been teaching them for years. It's not something new. It's for years you've been teaching them how to stand on their own and be a strong, independent woman that don't need no man unless she wants one.
Exactly.
And you can run your own show, and you can have your own money coming in, and you can have a man and you can not have a man, and you can even have a man but still live your own life.
Yes, it's so important. That's so important. And even, for anybody that has sons, the same thing. You don't have to take care of no woman. You want a woman that takes care of her damn self, and then you can build something if you choose to or not. It's so important to not pass down that you have, life only starts after you're married. I got news for you, honey. Like, it kind of slows down, actually. Not the married part. When you start having kids, it slows down. Like, you don't have time.
I know when we got married, we've been married almost 4 years, and it's almost taken us 4 years to figure out how to talk to each other. So it does slow down a little bit because it's just different. And we've been living together for 3 weeks in the last month, and we don't live together all the time. But I mean, God bless anybody that lives with their spouse. Because that is one of the most difficult things that I have ever done.
Yeah, it's a tough thing because but you just like pointed out something really critical. Like, we both have different communication styles. We both have money patterns, programs, like, even just the way money's talked about, how groceries are bought, and when do you buy food, and how is savings done, and where do you live, and how much of your percentage goes into what. Like, it's just so different. So if you mash those two together, there's bound to be things that go wrong. And my money story was I wasn't good with money. I was always told that. Your sister's the one that's good with money. You're not good with money. What it really was is I wasn't good at saving money. I liked to spend my money, but I wasn't like in trouble. I just bought things that I liked, and I always made more because I worked. So, at the age of 13, I had a job. So I got the money coming in, like, no big deal. But there was this, I was the black sheep. There was this idea that I was going to be okay money-wise. But the message that you're not good with money was why, when I got married, I deferred to my husband. And I let him take control of the finances. We had fights about it. He didn't always agree with what I wanted to do. But it wasn't true. I ended up getting a job in corporate that I managed $14 million, and I managed it the best of anyone in there because I was like, nope, this is how you budget this, and we're going to cut this contract, and we're going to, whatever. I always came in on target within, like, I think it was like 2%, which is a small target, right? And I was good with money. So as soon as I started to catch and understand what a money program pattern was and change that, I was like, I should have had that real estate,
Well, tell me a little bit more about that, because money is in everything. And a lot of women will say, well, I don't have enough money to get started in real estate. And I'm like, whoa, time out. Limiting belief situation right here. Let's break that one. Let's break this pattern first, because the way I do real estate, you don't need any money to get started. I bought my first house. Well, once I figured out how real estate really worked, I bought my first house with $10 and I made $15,000. I took that $15,000, I bought another house for $10. I made $26,000. So I'm stacked up $36,000 deep in 2 months.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And that is never what you hear over the dinner table.
No.
Dinner. That's not what
you got to go do this and that. You got to prove this and you got to submit. And regular real estate is super stressful. The way I do it, I got a text yesterday said, how quick can we close if we like this house? And I said 2 or 3 days. And they're like, oh my gosh, 2 or 3 days? That's it? Because we've complicated real estate to where it's not fun. It's not sexy. It's stressful. It's anxiety. It causes more divorces than I think people let it on to, because it's big money, right? Yeah. But if you break it down and it's not big money anymore, it's $10. Well, we're all going to blow that at lunch today.
Right.
Nobody's worried about $10 coming back, where you could make $15,000. I mean, that's a huge return on investment. And I bet everybody listening would be willing to place that.
Exactly.
$5, you're going to give me 15,000 in 8 weeks. Do it to it, baby. Let's go.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's really, the beauty of the way you do things, right? You're not saying to people you need to have a big chunk in order to invest in real estate. In fact, if you have a big chunk, one of the tools you offer them is private money profits, right? So there's other ways to make money if you do want to go into it with a big chunk of money. That is better than just sinking it into one house, probably. So there's, there's so many ways to slice this pie. And what I love is that you offer it to people in a way that, I couldn't have dreamt that any of that was possible.
But it's because we're fighting this huge monster out in society that says it takes money to make money.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a limiting belief too. And we've both been to Tony Robbins. We went last July to Tony Robbins, talked about limiting beliefs, had amazing breakthroughs in both of our lives after that. And I'm a huge Tony fan because he just brings things to the surface that you didn't realize you've been fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's the law of resistance. So what happens is that we go like an opportunity will come to us, right? So let's say, for example, an opportunity to buy land or house comes to us and we're like, oh, but we don't have the money, because we're thinking about it in the traditional way that we're thinking about it. But if you have the desire for something, you have the way to do it already around you. You just might not recognize it. And that is where we're not trained to see that way. We're just trained to see the negative, I can't do this, I'm not going to. But I'll tell you, when you reframe that, like say, for example, they always use this with mothers, but say, for example, that your kid was pinned under the car, you would find a way to get the damn car off the kid. That's where women come into superhuman strength, because if you have a desire strong enough, the solution is there. You can't have a desire that's not meant for you. You can't. That's why we're so different. And that's why, like, even if you talk to your spouse, he'll think it's crazy because he doesn't have that same desire you do. But if you have that desire, the solution and the way to do it is here. You just might not recognize it right away. So if you start to say, oh, well, okay, if I believe it's possible, where's the solution? How can I do this?
And one thing is, I think a lot of people, when they say, I don't have the money, that's just some sort of programming to keep you small and safe.
Yes.
To keep you in the same comfortable position that your family's been in and they've been in and they've been in. And I missed that lesson in growing up, apparently, because my parents always took me to auctions. So actually the first piece of property that I ever bought where I realized I could really be a real estate investor, because even though I wasn't taught that, I still caught that from society that said you need more money. And I had a job where I was making $500 a week, $2,000 a month. I'm never going to be able to buy anything. I'm never going to be able to move out of my mom's house at that point, right?
Yeah.
But I ended up at an auction on a Saturday where land was selling for $500 or $1,000. And I was flipping trucks. I was flipping furniture on Craigslist. I was already going to auctions and doing other things to make extra money because I wasn't making enough, right? And that's, a lot of people feel that. I'm not making enough. I'm not making enough. I'm not making enough. But I was actually taking action to where I was going to be making more, right? Yeah. So I ended up at an auction where they were selling land for what I was buying couches for. So I just bought it. And then it was, oh my gosh, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then it just grew and grew and grew and grew from there. But a lot of women aren't going to take that first $500 investment or $1,000 investment because they're so busy telling themselves they can't afford it. You can afford $500 and $1,000 to buy land and go through the process and see that maybe you are a risk taker.
Absolutely. And it's not even like, what I also think is so, it's a risk because you've been taught that it's a risk.
It's not really a risk. It's
not
fun.
Really a risk. No, my ex-husband who used to go overseas was taking risks. You know, like, these things are not risks.
Exactly. We just feel like it is because of what you talk about all the time. We are so guarded about sex and money that it feels like a risk to invest money, to have money out there that we don't know what the return's going to be. Right. But I bought land. I've bought houses for $2,500. I've spent more than that on purses before. That purse investment was more of a risk than my land investment.
So true. That's exactly it. Absolutely. And the other thing is, if people are wondering, like, you know, how am I going to do this? Where am I going to get the money? You're probably going to find the money for the TV that you want.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. And like, there's so many ways that people spend money that because it's slowly spent or it's on things they really need, then they convince themselves they don't have money. But the truth is, if you look back on the past year and you calculate all of the expenses, man, you had lots of money. And you don't even need that much money to get started anyway. That's, you know, that's kind of like the point, which I think is so brilliant. And why waste the time? We don't have the time.
Oh.
You know, like it's now. You know, don't regret that you've waited until now, you know, but I don't regret that I didn't do it when I was 1999. Would have been nice, but okay, I didn't. So now what can I do, you know?
You said earlier, though, you made money. You built a house, you sold it, you made money.
Yeah, always. And that also goes to show there was always something guiding me, you know, like I always knew where to buy the house, where to build the house, how to stage it to make money. Like there was always something. I've never lost money on a house. The last house I sold, you know that situation. I sold it twice actually, because the first sale fell through. And
so tell us about that a little bit, because a lot of ladies are going to end up in this situation. So it's a fairy tale marriage, 4 kids, white picket fence, everybody's awesome. You've got a government job. He's got the military job. Everything's amazing until one day it's not so amazing. And now we got to sell the homestead.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was exactly that. We were together for 20 years. You know, I thought we would be married forever. Still have a lot of respect, you know, great guy. It was just that I started to see that I was not living the life that I wanted to see. And as I moved towards what I wanted, we just got further and further apart. And he didn't like change. He didn't want to change. Not a bad thing. It's fine. And so he stayed exactly the way things were. And when I left, I didn't actually physically leave, but when I wanted out of the marriage, then we had to face the fact that we've been living so intertwined together that we had to, you know, unravel that. I lived there for a year, and then it got to the point where we knew that we had to sell the house. But we had not, like I said, he wasn't handy. So the maintenance, the ongoing repairs and maintenance of a house had not really been done to keep it tip-top shape. And we lived in a really big house in a really fantastic neighborhood. Like really, like if people hear about where I live, they're like, what, you live there? But we lived on the first street of that subdivision that built in behind. So it was all beautiful, big, huge houses, but we lived in the oldest part. And so I knew location wise, we were going to sell it lickety split. And a few years before, I had redone the kitchen because we had lived without an oven for 7 years. And I was like, I'm getting my kitchen renovated. This is enough. So the house had a fantastic kitchen, one of the most expensive parts to renovate. So I was like, okay, this is going to be okay. But I wasn't going to be able to get the money that I needed to get if I had had $10,000 to put into bringing it up to, you know, fancy state. I would have made a lot more money. We didn't. That's fine. Or let's just say we chose not to do that. So, so again, it was not just my decision, right? And that's, you know, some of the things that we don't necessarily have as discussions, because you don't want to think about, if I get divorced, what about this and what about that? It could happen, or, you know, other things could have come in the way. We decided that we were going to sell it. He insisted we use a realtor. I knew that I could sell it privately, not because I loved the realtor we had. I've recommended her to about 10 people. I will recommend her to 150 people. Like, she's amazing, wonderful, beautiful, no doubt about it. She came in to see the place and was like, oh boy, like, you're not going to get the price that you should be able to get. And I said, I knew that, that's okay, but I was still going to make money. It just wasn't going to be what it was going to be. And their fee is, you know, I think it was 7%, right? So in the meantime, I was still trying to find, before I agreed to sign with her, I was still trying to find private buyers. And I had someone come in and give us a quote for the work. So I knew how much work had to be done if I was going to put money into it to sell it. And he's like, well, wait a minute. Before that, why not I buy houses? So I'll talk to my partner, and instead of doing the work, we'll buy it. You can stay here for 6 months, a year until you find a place, because that's the other thing. There's a big boom where I live, so finding a place for me was going to be tougher because I wanted to live near the high school and arena because my son's always at hockey, right? And so it was just going to relieve the stress on my shoulders. And he's like, you won't have to put the work in. We'll do it if there's something you absolutely need, which we didn't. We'll put it in, and otherwise we'll just do it when you move out. Would have been a win-win. I wouldn't have had to pay the real estate fee, whatever. My ex, that's not safe. I can't do it. Again, he was raised being very safe, whatever. And also, they couldn't get there on time in order to have an answer before I listed it. And I said, I just need 2 more weeks. They just need more time. Like, because his partner wasn't always around, whatever. Didn't go for it. Then we listed it with the realtor, and I knew it was going to sell fast because it was priced well and it was staged well for what it was. And I didn't hide anything. I let all where the hardwood was worn out, it showed that in the pictures. I was very honest about what was going to happen on the house, and it was priced so. The first weekend, I think we had 7 showings, 5 offers. The offer that we took was full price, no inspection, whatever. It fell through. It was conditional on financing, and the guy lied about his financing, so he didn't get it through. And he didn't get it through. You know, you have I think it was like 48 hours or something like that, 72 hours. It was at the very last hour I found out that it fell through. Fine. I knew that it was still going to sell. I wasn't discouraged, so we put it back on the market, and the next weekend we had another 7 viewings, and I think we had 4 offers. And the offer I took was a little bit lower, but it was the same kind of conditions. I had the timeline I wanted, whatever, fine, done. So we ended up selling it, and we got money out of it. It wasn't as much as that I could have got, but the whole thing was, there was always intuition. There was always a gut feeling. There was always something I knew. And I probably should have sold it a year before when we originally separated. And I didn't, because I talked myself out of it. I was scared of taking the plunge out on my own because he was the one that managed the money, you know, whatever. Same thing. Don't be scared. Get the facts. Go talk to people, because there was all kinds of information that I found out after the fact that could have helped me with all of those things if I had only known. And I'm pretty switched on.
But the thing is, you were going through a life situation.
Yeah.
You're going through a life situation. Sometimes you've got your blinders on and you're just so focused on this situation that even though all the answers are out there and floating around, you just can't see that because you're so into what you've got going on. And that happens to all of us. It doesn't matter if you're going through a divorce, which is a life situation. It doesn't matter if you're going through a new job, which is a life situation. It doesn't matter if you're getting engaged. It doesn't matter if you're changing up your health insurance. It's something that you're focused on and you just don't see all the other options, or you're so overwhelmed that those options are just, it's too much. So we just shut down a little bit and just focus on what we can focus on. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's going to happen to all of us. And you coming out the other side of that, you see all the other things now, but at the time, it just wasn't necessary, you know? And it's a safety thing for sure. It's a comfort thing, and it's an end to one life. And selling that house meant that it's really over. And a lot of ladies that I talk to, they end up with rental houses, and they don't want to sell the rental house because it makes money, but they also don't want to sell the rental house because it means that life is really over. And good, bad, or ugly, it means it's really over.
Yeah.
A lot of women just don't want to face that either.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much that goes into the whole move. I mean, my God, we had lived there for 12 years, I think it was. Like, that was horrendous. But it also meant that I got to purge, you know, like I never purged before. Like, we got really, because the basement was, you know, where my son shot hockey sticks, or the freezer was there. But then all around it was all the storage that really was nothing we were keeping. You know, it just needed to go. So there's always a way through it. That's one thing. And there's always opportunities that you just, even if you just take a minute and say, okay, how else can I do this? Who can I speak to? What resources are out there? We're blessed to live in 2 different countries that really do offer a lot of information. I mean, just Google it if you don't have it, you know, like.
I think what you alluded to in that storage, though, down in the basement, that you didn't really need. A lot of women are carrying a lot of mental storage baggage around that they don't really need. And you talk about purging that stuff out. I know when you were going through that you were also purging through some mental stuff too. And
100%.
yes, it was lovely, but it takes a strong woman to actually go through that and say, okay, I don't need this anymore. This isn't supporting me. This isn't loving me anymore. And I don't need that to be supported and loved anymore.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's so, now I can say it. It's ironic because I help people through this in my business, right? But you can't see what you can't see. Your mind is not designed to let you see. That's why we have coaches. That's why we need friends. That's why we need Whitneys that help us see how to sell and buy houses.
Well, you've made me look at my stuff a lot more than I've made you look at your stuff.
No, but it's true. Like you can't see your own blind spots. That's why the way your brain is designed, because if you saw it, it would make you collapse in a corner, really. So you need someone else just reflecting it back to you in a way that makes you feel safe. And then you're like, oh, okay, great. But having gone through it, man, there is absolutely nothing that you can't tackle, that you can't take on, that you can't handle, that there isn't an answer to. That even if it is really bad, there is a lesson in that really bad that's going to lead you to the next opportunity. And if you don't get that lesson, because the reason the lesson is so hard and so loud right there is because the 25 other times that lesson came around, you ignored it. So now it's like flashing lights. Okay, you're going to listen now. And then you can lead to your opportunity because you took the lesson, you learned it. And that's exactly what it was for me.
And a lot of times it's that you got to heal through it. I've had the same lesson. It just keeps getting either more expensive or more obvious, but it's the same damn thing. And I think, you can look at mental storage that you're carrying around. You can look at stuff in the basement that you've been hanging on to for no reason. But a lot of women do the same thing with their finances, and they believe that they can't afford something because they refuse to actually look at it. You said it earlier. If you stack up everything you spent in the last year on fluffy stuff, you could have had enough money to buy a house.
Yeah.
You could have had enough money to do lots of different things, but you chose to do little bitty things. And looking at your money is tough, and looking at your finances and making a strategic plan for how to grow real wealth or invest bigger or leverage more or trim out some fat some places, it's tough, I know, and it takes a strong woman to do that. But luckily I've surrounded myself with strong women like you who will force me to look at my stuff and say, all right, if we're actually going to make this move, we're going to have to do this, that, and the other to get it together.
Absolutely. And once you tear everything back and once you just go through the tough times, you're going to see it's the steps to take. The first few steps is harder than all the rest. It's like surrender. That's exactly what I ended up having to do, is surrender. And I can remember being on all fours one day. Luckily my kids weren't home and my dog was there, and I just broke down. And it was a moment of pure surrender to God. And I was on all fours. I was crying so hard that I've never experienced crying that hard again. It was like a full soul cry, and the floor was all wet in front of me. I couldn't, it was like huge crying. And I just said, and it wasn't just about the house, it was just about everything. And what I said was, God, if I'm meant to be doing this, if I'm meant to be here in this way, come through now, or show me the way out, because I can't keep doing this. I can't let my kids down. I can't keep fighting the same old fights. I need help. And my dog was so smart. He didn't come too close because he knew I just needed that space, but he laid where he could see me. And being able to see him there, I was like, oh, that's my angel looking over me. Anyways, I swear, the minute that I surrendered, 2 days later, everything that I had been worried about started to bing, bang, bang, work out. And I don't think you have to get to that point. By all means, don't get to that point, reach out, ask for help, talk about it, and keep saying to yourself, what is the way I can do this? What is the solution? How can I figure this out? Instead of saying, I can't, because I can't automatically shuts it down.
Well, I think women are problem solvers and we take a lot on. And I know for myself, I have to get to that breaking point because I just keep taking on so much and I can do this and I can do this and I'll figure it out and I'll do this. But at some point, it just all crumbles. And sometimes you need that moment of crying in the kitchen floor and realizing that you can't do this on your own. I had that moment the end of June this year. I've had that moment a couple different times, but I had that actual like soul shattering. I can't do this without some help. I am sunk here unless something switches. And it was the same thing. It wasn't within 2 days, but a month after I had that, it was like I was living in a totally different world, but I had to break.
Yeah.
God broke me. Had to break. I ate some huge humble pie at the end of June this year.
Exactly.
And on the surface, though, it all looks good.
Exactly. Well, and I think, that's the other side of the law of resistance. So when you welcome something in of a higher nature, you have to let go of something of a lower nature. If not, you don't have room. It's the way of the universe. It's the law. But what so many of us do is that we try to welcome in the bigger, the higher, and we don't let go of the lower stuff. So of course we need to break. What are you not? You're not a camel, and even camels have their limits of what they can carry on their back,
That's why we have cars, is because horses and camels couldn't carry all our crap around. but it's not true. I don't know which law it is, but if you take an empty box, it won't take long before you fill that up. But if you can clear it out, you can purge it out, then more will come in. And I feel like that with my bank account these days. It's kind of funny that I can look at it like that now, but I used to panic when my bank accounts would get low, but it's like an empty box. When the bank accounts will get low, that's just when we're going to refill it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want them to be high and maxed out all the time, but I got to spend some money. My houses need to be kept up. Myself, I need to be kept up. My businesses need to be kept up. I've got people that I need to pay, that I need to grow, that I got things I needed to do. So spending money isn't bad. Money loves movement. Exactly. Money loves assignments, and money loves to be loved. And when you appreciate it and you can say, okay, great, I've got $3,000. That is amazing. And that means I've got $3,000 that I can spend on this, that, and the other. Perfect. Awesome. And then you turn around and you've made $10,000 or $15,000. Great. Thank you. Now I've got $10,000 or $15,000 that I can spend on this, that, or the other. Like, given an assignment, write out what you're going to use it for and appreciate it when it comes. Don't say, oh no, I don't have enough. Well, then you're never going to have enough. And honestly, none of us ever have enough. I'm pretty sure even the big guys, Bill Gates is on a mission to like cure different health diseases. He doesn't have enough money to cure different health. It's just that you're on a different level. You want to do different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody ever has enough money. But if you appreciate what you have and what you're working with, you'll get more creative. I'll say, when I got into real estate investing, I went broke trying to get rich.
Yeah.
Because I thought I needed money. The best thing that ever happened to me is I was down to my last $75 and I got creative and I learned about creative financing. And from there, I spun it into 140 grand the next year.
Exactly. That is
14 houses.
Exactly. And that is so you let go of this idea of a lower nature that you had to have money in order to invest in real estate, and the opportunity to do it in another way showed up. It was probably there before. You just didn't know it because you were determined to have money, to spend money, to buy real estate.
Creative financing's been around longer than mortgages have been around.
Oh, there you go.
Owner financing has literally been around since Jesus was here, y'all.
That's exactly it. And if Jesus could do it, why couldn't we?
I mean, regular real estate with mortgages and brokers and agents, it's only 100 years old. It's not even 100 years old. It started during the Depression. It's the baby on the block, but it's a brainwash to where we think that's the way it's supposed to be done. It's not, y'all.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of taken over, right? But I think in Canada anyway, I see things switching. I see it in a different way, that there's people buying up houses and then rent to own, or, owner financing is happening around us. It's just not as big as mortgages still.
I don't think it ever will be as big.
Right.
Even during their last recession, people were buying up houses and doing all sorts of great and amazing things. People made a ton of money.
Yeah.
doing creative financing, but everything on the news was foreclosures and the economy and it's tanking and blah, 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 blah. It'll happen the next time too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's actually closer than we think. But if you're open to seeing how that can be an opportunity instead of the doom and gloom.
I tell my girls all the time that if they can get these deals done right now, because this is a tough market to do creative financing, but when we go through the next recession,
Oh gosh,
it'll
yes.
be, I mean, my girls will be so swamped they won't be able to turn around every day without buying a house.
Exactly.
Because they've learned in what's a good market, but is a tough for investors. And then when it switches to a bad regular market, it's going to be amazing for investors. And they've already figured out how to do it without money.
Exactly.
Without banks,
Exactly.
without credit.
Exactly. That's exactly the thing to do. If you can do it at its hardest time, you can do it when it's easy.
That's right.
For
Delora,
sure.
this has been amazing. Do you have any advice for any ladies who are thinking about getting started or they're on a similar path that you were or are on? What would you tell those ladies?
Do it. Like run all the way into it, and do it with Whitney. Like I'm not just saying that because we know each other and whatever. Like I've never been asked to promote your stuff. I don't get any kickbacks from it, nor would I take any. I just genuinely know what you offer. I know that you care. I know that you've been there, you've done it, you support. The women in the group support each other. Like I just think this is one of those things that it's no brainer. Like do it with Whitney. If I had had a Whitney back then, oh gosh, right? But I have a Whitney now, so it's great. This is fantastic.
Yay! You got me now. It's all good. And
exactly. So definitely do it. Don't wait. And there's nothing that you can't figure out. And the thing is that Oprah said this, and I think it's so important. She said when she was, I think it was when she was 13 or 15, when she was going in for, she was going to be put in a home or something. I don't remember. She's like, Jesus, just give me another chance. I know this is not meant for me. Delinquent home or something like that. And Jesus did. And she, God did. And she ended up taking another step. But she said, in that moment, if he had shown me what I'm doing now, buying a network, starting my own network, she didn't buy one, she started her own network. She said, I wouldn't have believed it. So God is never going to show you. He's going to give you glimpses of what's possible. And that's why I had the intuition, like buying that house with the apartment was God saying, you can do it. But he's never going to show you the full thing because your brain will not accept it. It will not believe. Oprah wouldn't have been able to believe that she was going to own a network, but she did believe that it was possible for her to do bigger things. And that's the same thing for us, right? Like if you take one step, the next step will light up. If you take another step, the next step is going to light up. You don't have to know the whole path. Go for it, take the step. And if you work with Whitney, you're going to know the whole path anyway.
And don't forget, there's thousands of ways to make money in real estate. And I'm here to support you in whichever way that you decide to go forth and make your money. And I think it's huge to also have that tribe of women that they're learning, they're showing you the good, bad, and ugly that they're going through. That way you don't feel alone when you go through the ugly, when you cry on the kitchen floor, you're like, all right, well, Whitney did it, Delora did it, Sheila's been there, Leslie's been, I mean, everybody's been there, right? Let's not pretend that it's always unicorns and rainbows. It's not.
No,
exactly. No matter what Instagram tells you, it's not.
Exactly.
And keep
it doesn't
going.
need to be either. That's the other beautiful thing.
Thank you so much. That was
You're
excellent
welcome.
advice. I appreciate it. And I know you're in the She Buys It group. So we've got a huge group on Facebook that's totally free. Anybody can join. There's a link down below. So if anybody needs you, they can reach out through the She Buys It group and say, hey, Delora, I need some help. Yeah. Delora is also an honorary member of First Still Done Fast. So any FDDFers that need some help, Delora will be there for you too. And she's helped me tremendously over the last 3 years. I cannot thank you enough for being there for me and being my sounding board when I needed somebody and I was at my breaking point. So thank you so much. Y'all get somebody that's going to be on your side and going to call you out on your stuff because that's important.
So important.
Thank you, Delora. Is there anywhere else they can reach out to you if they need mindsex, mentoring, somebody to talk to, anything like that?
Yeah, mindsex. Just Google or hashtag mindsex. I'm everywhere.
And I'll say there's lots of mindset.
Yes.
Coaches, mentors, gurus, blah, 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 blah. There's only one Delora.
That's right. I'm the only one.
Yay! I'll reach out to her. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast, the She Buys It podcast. Anywhere you can type in She Buys It, type it in, find us, and get started. Let's help you get your deals done fast. Bye, y'all.
Bye.